Matthew, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Is there a harder county to be a Republican chair for than King?
Well, I guess it's not hard to find the problems out there, but it is definitely a challenge to be a Republican in King County. But I'm up for the task. I've been an activist for years in the party, and now I'm here at the higher level. So I'm looking forward to it.
I don't know if you can quantify it. How many Republican electeds are there even in King?
Jeez, that's already getting my math question for the day, but
not a lot.
Not a lot. Let's say probably 6, 7, or 8. I mean, I don't know if on the councils, Bellevue City Council, Reagan Dunn and Pete Von Reich by there at the King County Council. But yeah, not a lot, but we're working on changing that.
Yeah. Is there kind of a vision, a game plan moving forward to try to change the tide of things a little bit?
Yeah. So after this last election cycle, I had exit interviews with all of our legislative district candidates, like Bill Boyce down the 47th and Linda Kochmar on the 30th, Rika Hoshingi. And they said, as hard as we worked, it's just the national brand or the brand of being a Republican. The people are just voting that way. And so after that, I'm like, we have to get more involved in the community. I don't think that the community knows us right now or knows or understands us. So my charge is to make sure that we're more out in the community doing good things, shining the light on the Democrats' failed policies and what we can and why we have good candidates and the solutions and they could look at our candidates and hopefully vote our way. We got to win the hearts and minds of the voters of King County to change King County.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the national brand issue quick. I don't know if you saw, but there was some internal polling done by the Washington Policy Center that found like 60% of the people or something said they were like scared to vote for a Republican, which is a huge bar to overcome.
Massive,
I mean, what does that even mean? And it seems like that kind of ties back to Trump, that it's like, as long as Trump's in the picture, they don't want to touch the Republican Party. Do you think that Trump is that detrimental to the ability of Republicans to win here?
Well, he definitely has an effect in King County. You could look at his numbers for Washington State and King County, and he's definitely not popular. But my grandpa always said to me, he goes, Matthew, you can't worry about the outside forces. You only can worry about what you can control. And all I can control is what we do in King County. And hopefully we just keep doing the right things. And the voters say, hey, those King County Republicans are pretty reasonable. They're talking about pretty common sense things. And maybe we can override the national sentiment and get King County Republicans elected. That's what I'm trying to do.
But how do you build enough distance there? And do you feel like you need to forcefully build distance between the county party and the former president?
Well, I don't like focusing on a certain candidate. I'd always say the party's almost like being a host of a party, right? You have the house, you have the here's hors d'oeuvres, or whatever, that's the candidates. Here's another hors d'oeuvres, that's the activists, and you're basically a referee in hosting a party. And so I don't like to say that person can't come in, that person can't come in.
Well, he's not an hors d'oeuvre; he's the main course.
I know, but I don't know if I separate. I just got to keep doing what we do in King County, and just I don't know how. That's a good question, Brad. I haven't thought about how you would separate. They're still part of the party. He's part of the party. There's going to be activists and people are excited about him for running. But I think there's going to be a lot of new presidential candidates coming and that people are going to get excited about as well. So
yeah, and people even on the podcast hate when I just sit and dwell on Trump, but I don't like the guy. I never voted for him. And as a moderate, I'm not saying that. I mean, I voted for a lot of Republicans in November, so I'm able to look past Trump to say, okay, what are these people going to do for our state? But the Democrats, as long as he's in the picture, every Republican is a Trump Republican, MAGA Republican. And I feel like it just gives them this very cheap, lazy, easy out, as opposed to running their local candidates on their record. They're just like, oh, that's a MAGA Republican.
Well, the good thing is the candidates are not bound by what the party does. The party has to stay neutral, but a candidate can say, hey, I'm not a fan of Trump either. I'm running. This is why I'm running. I want to fix crime. I want to fix the homelessness. I want our education better in this state. So the candidates have that leeway. And so, and maybe that's what the solution is for some of our candidates is they have to come out and talk about Mr. Trump or President Trump and either why they're for him or against him and then run on, then get back to, okay, done with that. Let's talk about Seattle. Let's talk about King County. Let's talk about all the different issues. I mean, numerous.
Yeah, I think it's hard to escape as long as he's in the picture, but I won't dwell on Trump the entirety of our interview. But so Caleb Heimlich was just reelected as the state chair.
Yes.
Do you think that's a good choice?
Absolutely. I was a big supporter of Caleb. I've worked with Caleb for over a decade. I was a former finance chairman of the state party for the last 8 years. So Caleb and I work really closely. But there's a lot of sentiment and groundswell because the election didn't go the way people thought. That big red wave wasn't a big red wave. And then now everyone's pointing fingers. It's Caleb's fault. It's Rana's fault. They're picking that. And then I'm going, well, there's a lot of outside forces that they had no control of. Mr. Trump is one thing that was brought up in a lot of that things. And also the Dobbs decision was another thing that came in. And so that's out of his control. But as far as fundraising where he needed, I think it was $8.3 million, which is a massive amount. At the end of the day, it's not the most important thing for a chairman to do, but fundraising is a major part of it. And that's one reason I came into King County. King County was in debt. Major debt, and I came in as a former finance chairman of the state party, knowing the donors, and then all of a sudden you turn it around. So you go from a party that's insolvent basically to a real party. And I was with the Washington State Republican Party when Kirby Wilbur was the chair, and left us, we were broke, and so we needed a miracle. And then all of a sudden, this gal named Susan Hutchinson walks in the door, raises a ton of money, and the next year we had a coalition took over the Washington State Senate. So money is very important, and so he that way, and he does have a vision. And we are going to do things different this cycle. He's listening.
Yeah, and I want to talk about a couple of the maybe tweaks that you guys are going to make ahead of 2024. We'll put the Trump issue to bed on this. I saw that, and I'm privy to a little bit of the internal infighting over the chairman race, and Keith Swank was his opponent. I know there was a lot of concern going into the vote on Saturday that Keith might have the votes to take it, and so at the very last minute, Caleb's camp opted to drop an endorsement from Donald Trump as sort of this Hail Mary, like, hey, let's try to get some of these Trump supporters on board. I think that is a terrible idea. I mean, I don't know how you distance the state party from Donald Trump when all the Democrats can say Trump literally endorsed the chairman of the state party. Do you think that was a wise idea? You have to understand, there's a lot of the supporters of Mr. Swank are probably a lot of Trump supporters, but I don't know if it's why it happened. That's what it's done. And Caleb got elected. He won with what was it, 77 to 37? So it wasn't close.
It wasn't close. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on from Donald Trump.
Okay.
I'm sure people listening to the podcast will be happy about that too. You have been at a few high-profile protests of community members lately. The first that at least I know of was the Chinatown issue. So folks in Chinatown International District came together to protest against this homelessness complex that was being forced down their throat by the King County executive. Why was it important for you to be there?
Well, it actually was kind of a fluke, to tell you the truth. I was at a board meeting one day and I go, guys, we can't compete with the Democrats. We just don't have them, not compete, but we don't have the money to compete with the Democrats that they have. And also the media, legacy media covers them. But we need to be looking for opportunities to get involved in the community and get that earned media. But it wasn't just for the media. It was a fluke. I remember going down that Chinatown International District protest that day. They were going to put 500 beds plus 50 tiny homes plus 50 RVs. And I watched the protest, and a lot of those people in that community speak Cantonese. There was no media coverage of it. There was only one journalist covering it, Jonathan Cho with Discovery. And I remember going up to their leader after going, they're ignoring you. The media is ignoring you. But if we get involved, they're not going to ignore us because it makes the story that much juicier. It's like, what, now the King County Republicans, are they even around here anymore? It's like, next thing you know, we're in there, we're doing protests, we got them signs, and we stayed at it, press releases, social media. And at the end of the day, after weeks of protests, they canceled the project. That was a massive, I think a $400+ million project. And it showed that if we're in a minority party, but we still have some influence. Because at the end of the day in politics, what are we doing? We're in the influence business. Either we're influencing the voter to vote for our candidates we're influencing you to make fix these problems or that. And so we influence, hopefully we had a small part in influence the Dow Constantine and the council to do the right thing and cancel that project. And they did. So that's was so. I was one of the things I'm most proud about, because when you're in politics, what you're really trying to do is change the world, right? You're trying to change your community, and hopefully change your state and change the country. And we, for that small community down, changed their world. There's not 1,000 drugged out zombies walking around that neighborhood today because of that. Our partly because of our actions in there, and that's the same thing we're doing up in Linwood.
Yeah, and the Asian American voting base is the fastest growing in the country,
Yep.
and I'll never forget that protest, because to see these Asian Americans who the Democrats think they just got the lock on anyone whose skin isn't white, holding these signs with like progressive politicians' faces crossed off, saying you're not welcome here. I mean, what do you make of that dynamic that Democrats feel like, hey, these are easy votes for us, and then to see those people walking around saying, you're using us for photo ops, but you're not here when we need you.
Yeah, and we were very careful about that. I never wanted. If you watch how we were involved with that, we were behind the scenes and not out front saying, this is our charge. We'll help you with signs. We'll help you with press release. Make sure the media gets there. No, it's a huge voting block, but the Asian American community has a lot of conservative values. They want, they're family oriented. They want good education. They don't like crime. So that the other thing was interesting in that is that a lot of those our members are from China or Cambodia. These are places that you can't protest, and so to see them organize, and again the similarities between the Chinatown International District and the Linwood, what do you call it? Drug treatment facility they're putting up there. It's a lot of Chinese Americans involved. That Vivian Dong, who's the leader of that, she's from China. So that's pretty cool to see.
I got to ask you, just because you provided them with signs. Were those signs yours?
Yeah.
Wait, the signs with the Democratic politicians crossed off, you gave them?
Yes. Yeah, it was awesome.
That makes me feel totally different about it.
So we had all the red and whites.
No,
we made these signs. We had pictures of them and down with Dow and all sorts of crazy stuff. And then and we did the signs up north too. So it's and then if you look at that, the funny thing about this when we talk about the Linwood opioid treatment facility is that Vivian Dong, who's the leader of Safe Linwood, stopping that, she called us one day and she goes, hey, I saw what you did down in the Chinatown International District. Can you help me do the same, stop this up here? And I'm like, sure. So next, what do you need? She goes, I need signs. How do I do a protest? How do we get out to the media? And we're just kind of walking her through that. And now I was up there again yesterday for another protest, and she inspires me. Just to see her teeth are chattering, but she's not going to back down. She's like, I'm not compromising on this. The government said they didn't do things the right way. We're calling you out on it. But it's inspiring to see that. And the more you get out and protest, the more you become activists, that's where you're going to find your future candidates. I mean, I could see her being a candidate easily one day, and because she's just that committed. And but I never would have met her or met other leaders if you weren't out in the streets doing those protests and getting involved.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you're not the only people that go and hand out signs. When I think of Shama Sawant and her tax Amazon army of red signs.
I've been down there fighting her before.
I thought these were them making the signs. Did they at least know who the people were on the signs?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, the funny thing about the Sawant signs, hers are red and white. So are ours. We made them look the same. So, yeah.
So what kind of Republican candidates in King County do you think can do well? That's a big part of your job, right? Trying to recruit candidates to run.
Yeah, getting them elected. Obviously pragmatic candidates and problem solvers, and I got to be careful how you say that because it depends where in King County they're running. At the end of the day, it's Republicans can get elected, and that was the part that was a little bit sobering, I guess, after this last election cycle. We had, I thought, one of the greatest groups of Republican candidates I've seen for years. Even Kemper Freeman Jr. said that. He goes, I've been around politics. This is a solid team. You had,
very diverse.
Yeah, Raiko Hoshingi. You got the Seattle Times endorsement. Chad Mogendas is another one over there in the 5th. And they came up short. And I remember thinking, God, Raiko, you're literally, I've never seen a candidate so qualified as you. And just so that, just got it, get to, she's very intelligent, pragmatic approaches. And, but we still didn't get her across the line. It's because of the stuff we got tied into the national part. So we have to keep finding candidates like Chad Mogendas, Raika, Rob McKenna was where I really cut my teeth in politics and learned so much of what works and what doesn't work. Was from that Rob McKenna 2012 campaign when I was his Seattle co-chair. What I can talk about that is that he was a moderate. He reached out and he was a problem solver and he had solutions. But the other thing that he did that where I think the party has drifted away, I don't know if it was because of COVID or whatnot, but if you look at the Tiffany Smiley campaign, she didn't really move the needle. You had Susan Hutchinson ran, she announced the day of a filing, she raised a couple $1 million and got 42%. Tiffany, 2-year run, $25 million, and she gets 43%, 1% for $23 million. So you're going, what's happening there? And Rob McKenna, when he ran against Jay Inslee in 2012, got 48.1%. He's almost there, pretty tight. But what he did is he had a 2-year run. But the thing he really did was he had these coalitions. He had like 13 coalitions. It was Latinos for McKenna, Asians, veterans, military, first responders, seniors, women. And so the party has precinct committee officers, which are foot soldiers. But our precinct committee officers, I was a district chair in the 43rd back then, and I had 89 PCOs, but maybe 9 or 10 would do the work. And that's a problem nationwide. But what I saw really worked with those coalitions. These people they want to help the party, but they don't want to go to a meeting every month. They don't want to sit there in parliamentary procedure, division, fighting but they want to help out. So when we have a Super Saturday, which is a volunteer day, you'd have 3 PCOs show up, but 40 Asians or 40 guys from the Sikh community, 40 first responders. I'm like, that's the solution. They don't want to be part of the party, but they're like-minded people. It's almost a community within the party. They know each other, and then they go out and work for the party. That's what we need to do. We need to do more of that. And what Tiffany didn't do, and the party kind of went through, is they thought you could do it with paid canvassers knocking on that door or text messages or that. But the difference between a paid canvasser and an activist knocking on the door is totally different. The paid guys, I had to hit X amount of doors to get my pay today. And they ask you questions like the Stasi back in the day. Are you going to vote Republican or are you voting? Get off my porch. Whereas I knock on the door. I remember Terry Hickle was a gal around the 30 that was a state representative out there. And I was in the pouring rain one day. And literally, the rain's coming down sideways. I knock on the door down there Federal Way, and they open it, and the gal goes, I'm here for Terry Hickle. She goes, I'm a Democrat, but why are you out in the rain like this today? I'm like, she's really good. You should check out her policies. She goes, you know what? Actually, if you're going to be out here, she has to be that good. I am going to vote for her. Yeah. So that's how you change the hearts and minds of the door. That's literally what our party needs to do more of.
But you mentioned like what Rob McKenna did in building these coalitions. He still lost.
Barely, but he lost. If you look at that race, I remember it was 2012. I remember seeing Dwight Pelt was the Democrat chairman. I go, well, Dwight, what are you going to do next time? Well, he goes, you threw everything but the kitchen sink, because it wasn't just the election that year. That was the gay marriage was on the ballot as well, and the legalization of weed. So those got. So now that's what the other thing I saw. I was like, okay. There's a thing with initiatives and votes on other things that can get your people out to vote as well. Yeah. So maybe that you look at that as another way to possibly do it. But yeah, he did still lose, but he was closer than we've seen in years.
Yeah, there's I want to talk more about 2024, but we're in 2023 and there's some critical races this year. 7 of 9 Seattle City Council seats. You have 4 incumbents who've said, I'm not going to run again. That's a huge opening to really fundamentally change politics in the city. Are you guys in play? Are you looking for candidates?
Absolutely. And I'm working with some groups. I don't know if I want to say their groups' names, sure. But there's business owners that I've met, even Democrats have met with it. There's even Democrats like, we don't want these. These guys are gone full commie socialist, and so they're fed up. And I'm looking at candidates. I mean, Ann Davidson was great that she won down there in Seattle, but it's tough to probably run a full R in there. But maybe we get a person leans our way, or independent leans our way, or right in the middle, and so we can get behind that. Absolutely, and I have been in talks for months now with various groups and people like that. So
Yeah, because it's nonpartisan. So,
Yeah.
I mean, even though like the city attorney race was nonpartisan and had just run as a Republican
Yeah,
for
yeah.
lieutenant governor, so she couldn't really escape the partisanship of it. But I think you've got some small business owners or something who come forward nonpartisan from the beginning. That's a huge opportunity. I won't hold my breath because Seattle has disappointed me in the
I know that's the
past.
part. Well, that's the thing. I'm born and raised in this town, and
Yeah.
and that's the part that why I got in politics, and that's why I think I've never been paid. I've been in politics now for 20 years. I've raised millions of dollars. I was the finance chairman of the party, and donated tons, but I've never been paid because that's how pure I want to be. I'm like I want to just come in here and work, but this is my town, but. And I grew up here back in the, I remember in the 90s, Seattle was the coolest city in the country. Had that movie Singles came out, Sleepless in Seattle, Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan there. And then we had the grunge music scene, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Costco was opening up, Microsoft, Amazon, Boeing was still in Seattle. And then you've just seen it over the years, just go in this decline, and these Democrats have literally destroyed. This is all, and that's one thing that it makes it easy being a Republican in King County is that this isn't our fault. This is the Democrat. This is a Democrat-controlled state. This is a Democrat-controlled city. Seattle's Democrat. The council's mostly Democrats. So we have no one to blame. I mean, plenty to blame. It's the Democrats that have done this to our city, and they're doing it up and down the whole West Coast. I mean, go down to Olympia. Have you been to Olympia lately?
It's not good.
It's like looks like Woodstock on heroin down there. There's just tents and zombies everywhere. And then you go down to Portland. Portland is, I think, worse than Seattle now. It's just destroyed. So. And that's the part, Brandi, you bring up. You're going, God, people keep voting for the Democrats even after all this.
Yeah. But that's a huge responsibility that Republicans are asking for because, for instance, I had Governor Jay Inslee on the other day, and he had the nerve to blame Republicans for the fact that homelessness is so bad. And I just thought, and I stopped him, and I thought, you can't be serious, and they've had a trifecta in Olympia since the end of 2017.
Yeah.
The 2018 legislative session. And so, they're going to put blame there. But if Republicans can manage to get, the governor's office or to make some inroads and take back the House or the Senate, I mean, you're adopting decades of crises.
Mm-hmm.
And what I don't want to see is if Republicans can get there, them being like, well, we took over a mess and we're not going to be able to fix it overnight. I just want to see people come in and say, we've asked for this job, and we're going to take the blame for it.
Act decisively.
Mm-hmm.
Get in there and actually really do the changes. Now, but I do understand government. Government is like a 9,000-mile freight train that's hard to stop on a dime and turn. But you have to get in there and do that. But again, our brand could. I think it's not our brand's damage. I don't think they understand us. And I look at King County too. I mean, I've been involved for 20 years. We haven't had a King County that's really gone out there and got mixed it up out there, gone to the Chinatown thing, gone and do the Safe Linwood thing. And I was thinking about what's different now is I've noticed even I was at a couple of these protests and that the legacy media would turn off their cameras as soon as I started speaking, literally turn them off right there. You can watch them. But now with the rise of independent journalists like yourself, there's Jonathan Cho at Discovery again, you got Katie Davenport over there, Rebel. These independent journalists now start throwing stuff up on Twitter. It starts getting the groundswell, and then the legacy media has to start covering. It's like, why? This is a story.
Yeah.
Cover them. And so with that and recognizing that, this is a huge opportunity for myself and the King County Party and our candidates to actually get out there, get involved in communities, and get some news coverage. I even saw Semi Bird he's one of our governor candidates was out there yesterday in Linwood as well. He drove over from Richland yesterday. Awesome. So we need to see more of that, getting out there and changing hearts and minds, or at least having them understand us and fighting for basically common sense is all we're asking folks. And we need more common sense.
Yeah. But if they don't, you said, I'm not sure they understand us. I'm not sure they understand who we are. You can only blame yourself for that, right? I mean, the messaging obviously hasn't been there. So fundamentally, from a messaging point of view, is there something you need to do differently heading into 2024?
Well, I want to grow the party with the activists, and if we, as you grow out the coalition and activists and get involved in the communities, now you're showing that we do care. We are members of the community. We do not have horns growing out of our heads. We're just trying to help out here and stop bad policies. And so, going into 2024 is getting more involved, being more vocal. I mean, going out there and being at these protests, and just hopefully getting news coverage on that. And we can't do it sitting at home. You have to go out there in the community. And then as far as being involved in the community, there's Republicans out there that are Republicans, and they're soccer coaches, they're baseball coaches, they're basketball coaches, they're on the PTA, and those are the future candidates. Because I remember Andy Hill was a great senator out of the 45th. Andy was such an inspiration. His motto was learn, earn, and serve. He learned, then he went and made his money at Microsoft, then he wanted to serve. But when we ran him for Senate, the people go, "Oh, he's just a bad Republican. He's one of those evil Republicans." They're like, "No, that's Coach Andy. He coached his daughter's soccer team for years. Everyone knows Andy." And so that's what we need to do. We have to be finding not just politicians, it's actually community members. The community knows them, and they've been involved for years. It's the soccer coaches. It's that. It's media personalities too. So I was always surprised Dory didn't run for office.
I had the governor on, that time slot over on Cairo, and I wanted to ask the governor if he thought Dory would have made a good governor, but
he would have made an awesome governor. My God, he would be rolling his eyes. He got down there. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. Well, let's end with this. 2024, obviously, we're looking toward that, and I think people are tired of the governor. I don't think he'll run again. I know he's acting like he hasn't made up his mind, but there's just no chance he runs again. There's a lot of Democrats waiting in the wings. Not only do you need to recruit candidates to run in King County, but you have to figure out how to convince King County voters to vote for Republicans in statewide races, or they simply cannot win. Do you have a gubernatorial candidate in mind who you think could get enough of the votes in King County to give him a chance?
Well, today I'm announcing. No, I'm totally joking. I got you for a second.
That's funny.
Well, yeah, obviously. Well, the numbers, folks, if you don't know, it's you need 25% of the vote in Seattle typically, and 38% in King County. There's some names get tossed around out there, but I'm not.
You're not
at
willing
to go out, not out them at this right now. So
okay. So all right, Matthew Patrick Thomas. Anything else we ought to know about what the Republicans are up to in one of the most challenging counties in the nation?
I'll just tell you, this is a new King County Republican Party. This is going to be a bold King County Republican Party.
I hate the word bold.
I am bold. One. Hey, look, I'm going to protests everywhere. I'm in downtown Seattle town. China, this is enemy territory, and we're out there planting our flag and actually changing policy. That's what we need. Bold. That is bold. We're literally going, I don't think a Republicans protest in downtown Seattle probably in 30 freaking years, and we're there. So we're going to be out there. We're going to be loud and mixing it up and hopefully changing those hearts and minds. So